Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I'm back with another Starcraft 2 cast. We have got ourselves something that's a little bit different, but that I've been wanting to cast for a while now. As these matches are few and far between, but are always a hoot to watch. A little bit of variety, and you may already be cluing into what this is, clicking on this video, and the fact that we've got 4 players. It's going to be a 2v2 pro match, and we have got some incredibly good players for this 2v2. We have got a Protoss duo taking on perhaps 2 of the best Korean Terran players ever. It is going to be BYUN and MARU, 2 Korean pros, taking on HARSTEM and GOBLIN. 2 great European Protoss players. And so I'm gonna try and cast everything here and catch everything, but I might have to talk a little fast, commentate twice as fast or twice as many players as this game gets going, and I'm sure it's going to get going fast. Though, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to go ahead and click that like button if you want to see more Pro 2v2. Leave a comment down below. Let me know that as well. Comments help with the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. And join the Discord, which is linked down below. We have got a bit of probe harassment. What's worse than 1 probe harassing? It's 2 probes, as they can potentially gang up on your SCVs, and so MARU and BYUN are having to deal with that. We do have 1 Marine out for BYUN though, and a single probe is still in the main base. That is HARSTEM's probe fighting an SCV, but that 1 Marine does do its job and chase this probe away. BYUN is chasing this probe down, but good jukes by GOBLIN actually makes it around and out. It looked like it would have been dead for sure, but it does escape, but only for another moment longer, as that Reaper does pop out that poor probe. It's trying to stay alive, and there's a lot of micro going on, showing how good these players are. Good coordination there, I think, between BYUN and MARU. One of them making the Marine, which pops out quicker to get rid of the probes. The other investing in the Reaper to scout out. And boy, oh boy, what are these Protoss going for? It's a double Stargate opening between these 2. That is just nuts. Now, that means they both have an expansion up. They're both potentially either going to have Phoenix or Oracles. Potentially both. We'll see. I don't expect both of them to go for Phoenix, because you need some muscle on the ground, I think, in a game like this. However, now we've got 2 Adepts trying to shut down this Scout and Reaper. We'll see if it goes down or not. The Shades will catch that and kill it. Looks like BYUN, what did he see? He sees 2 Stargates, so they know what's coming. We've got MARU going for a fast 3rd command center on location. BYUN, pardon me, being incredibly greedy. We've also got MARU then going for a fast 3rd command center. So these Terrans are macroing. They are being so darn greedy, while the Protoss are doing just Protoss things. We've got Phoenix on the way for GOBLIN, whereas HARSTEM is going for a fleet beacon, so he's playing it greedy, not making any units other than his 3 Adepts, or 2 Adepts, pardon me, and then waiting for a fleet beacon to either make a Tempest, or I'm guessing a Tempest, or a Carrier. I think it will be a Tempest, though. He's going to try and bully these Terrans, utilize all the extra space there is on 2v2 maps. Looks like one of those Adepts does get killed. Now, these Protoss players are a little bit in the dark. They don't exactly know that they're up against a 3 command center play. Well, they've seen BYUN's 3rd command center. They don't know about MARU's. Now, that's going to kind of light a fire under the butts of GOBLIN, and HARSTEM, as they're going to go, oh man, these Terran players, they're going to have a lot of economy in a couple minutes here once that mining gets going, and it's already going with that 3rd command center up for MARU. That's 3 mules at a time. Up for BYUN, pardon me. MARU's got his 3rd done as well, so that is 6 Terran command centers by the 4.5 minute mark. We do have more Tempest on the way, though. GOBLIN is going for a Robo base, so we could be looking at some sort of Phoenix Colossus Tempest composition, all the while MARU is going to be going for double Starport to try and counteract the Tempest of BYUN, of HARSTEM, pardon me. This is casting on hard mode, ladies and gentlemen. We do have a couple of these Phoenix flying, and they do lift up a couple SCVs that are building some important structures. An extra racks, an extra factory delayed. The fact that MARU is producing 3 Vikings at a time is so important, though, because, oh man, Goblin loses 2 of his Phoenix. That's a big loss. I was saying, because those Vikings will be a hard counter to these Tempest. I mean, 3 Vikings can take on 1 Tempest. Tempest are not as tanky as they used to be, and they actually fold pretty easily. So MARU's already kind of got a counter set and sorted for this single Tempest. It's going to kill maybe a SCV or something and then have to get on out of there. Like, this is not good for HARSTEM. It's a cool opening in theory, but these Terrans, they are getting away with this greedy opening. The Protoss are just firing up their 3rd base, whereas BYUN and MARU are just going to be able to make like 1 trillion Marines and apparently just Vikings for MARU. So mass Vikings for one of the Terrans. The other Terran is just going to be making a lot of bio up against now what is quite a few more Tempest for HARSTEM, and Goblin, who's making Phoenix and Colossus. I don't think the Phoenix will be too important. They can support the Tempest though. But look at this, MARU, he's got 7 Vikings here. That's enough, I think, to volley down one of these Tempest. HARSTEM is being very wise in retreating. The Phoenix will be here to support against those Vikings. And the Protoss do have eyes on that, though, so they see the Vikings. That's why they're playing it safe. No 4th command centers going up yet for these Terrans, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the future. Carriers are on the way for HARSTEM, and I mean, carriers are good, but the rate that MARU is producing Vikings makes me nervous. It's like these Tempest are trying to get a supply depot, trying to bait these Vikings out. The Protoss players know that these Vikings are here, and all of a sudden MARU is going to be going, as he pulls those Vikings back, but they're actually just good enough that, I mean, 5 Phoenix are not enough to take on that many Vikings. And the Tempest, they fire very slowly. They kill off like 1 Viking and then pop. They gotta wait a second until they fire again. We've got a fusion core now on the way for MARU, so potentially gonna be going for, I'm guessing, Liberators. So Vikings control the skies, and the Liberators also in the sky can shoot to the ground. We've got a 5th command center on the way for the Terran player, whereas these are still just 3 base Protoss on a much lower economy than their opponents. And we're going to see that reflect, I think, in the supply pretty soon. As, yeah, BYUN's starting to surge ahead in the supply. He's out on the map with bio. He's not going to stop attacking, I think, or poking and prodding. At this point in the game, he's got to be careful not to overextend. But, and eventually BYUN's bio will lose efficiency against like 200 carriers. All of a sudden, all those Marauders won't do too much. But, I mean, they'll do good against the Colossus and the Phoenix until later in the game. We actually have MARU producing battle cruisers. I didn't want to jinx it by saying, oh man, I hope there's battle cruisers or something, but we are getting triple BC production from a Terran player that's got up, what, 5, 6 command centers now? That's a ridiculously strong economy, and that means he's going to be able to make a lot of BCs. HARSTEM's Air Armada is going to have a hard time contending with this. Psystorm is going to be on the way for Goblin, but there's already Ghosts being produced by BYUN, and this is just going to be an ultimate Protoss versus Terran fight. I don't know which race is going to come out on top in 2v2. The rules are completely different because, I mean, there's more players. It's a much less explored matchup than traditional 1v1. I mean, who knows? I think BYUN and MARU are going about it right, though, as they start to produce a lot of these command centers. I wouldn't mind seeing BYUN start to transition into some Thors in his army, perhaps. The Terrans, though, are starting to push out a little bit. BYUN 170 supply, MARU 140, HARSTEM 160, Goblin 130. So the Protoss are behind a little bit on supply. That doesn't surprise me too much. I mean, what's Goblin making now? He's getting up Psystorm, getting up +2 ground attack. But, like, yeah, I don't know about what Goblin has. 7 Phoenix, 3 High Templar, 4 Colossus. The Colossus are very good. And, I mean, they'll deal lots of damage if MARU's Vikings can't deal with them. Or the battle cruisers, for that matter. And we are already up to 3 BCs with another 3 about to pop out in just a second here. Maru may want some more starports because he's loaded, so he can make a lot of stuff. And there we actually see 2 more starports on the way. Goblin, he seems a bit unsure of what to make. I don't mind High Templar at all. He's getting out an Immortal in his army, so he's in a bit of a weird spot. Like, if you're HARSTEM, you just build the pure air armada, whereas Goblin, he's like, Colossus, Phoenix, High Templar, what do I want against what these Terrans have? We're gonna see another Nexus get cancelled. These Protoss players are still only on 3 bases apiece against these ridiculous Terran economies. I think they've been playing it a little bit too passive. Far too passive when it comes to getting up their economies. I mean, they'll both hit 200 supply, so they'll have an incredibly strong army. But as far as being able to replace it goes, they're not dropping 7 mules at a time like Maru is doing. This is what happens when a Terran just sets their mind on macro, and it's a 2v2 map, so they have so much space. We see a planetary in the bottom left already established. The Protoss players have got to be like, wait a second, they've pretty much got the entire map, and we're on, checks notes, 3 bases? Okay, Goblin's on 3 bases, HARSTEM's on 4. All of a sudden, Goblin is fighting a few battle cruisers with a battery that's not even helping against these BCs. They've already got +2 air weapons. I mean, a couple Tempest start coming in. Maru will teleport out those BCs, but then he can dump Yamato cannons and then potentially just teleport out. One of the BCs dies, but so do 2 Tempest. And the Terran players will have a much easier time replacing those. Goblin doesn't have that impressive of a supply. He never got up a 4th base yet. And all of a sudden, Byun is lurking. At some point, I think the Protoss players may just have to fight or something. I think Goblin's going to need to ditch the Phoenix because mass BCs from one Terran, Ghosts and Bio from another. We see Byun littering the map with turrets. He's like, all right, I'm not making any air units, but I'm making a lot of anti-air turrets. Now, the Colossus are still going to be a big threat. The Psystorm will be a big threat. And we see Maru coming in, but there's a big Psystorm on top of those Vikings. They were so clumped up. That was huge by Goblin. Psystorm's so good against Vikings, as they don't actually have all that much HP. Like, that is a lot of red Vikings. Maru probably will want to repair those up. And both teams are approaching max out. The Terrans are maxed. The Protoss Goblins lagging behind a little bit. We see some Zealots trying to harass. I mean, I don't ever want to scoff at harassment, but it's like you're harassing Terran players who've got, I don't know, 7 orbital commands. Maru's got 6, a couple planetaries. It's going to take a lot of harassment to bring down their economies. I think if the Protoss are going to win this game, they're going to need just one great fight. And there is the possibility of that. Look at Goblin's worker count. He's still got a decent army supply, but he's only on 56 probes. We see an EMP go down. I mean, Byun's army is by itself. I think the Protoss kind of need to pounce on this, or they're going to have to deal with these battle cruisers that are now going towards their main base. Look at this, 5 Stalkers and a High Templar against a trillion BCs. Well, maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but 12 is a very scary number. We're even seeing a nuke on the way for Byun. That's just more chaos in an already chaotic 2v2 game. Time Warp goes down. We're seeing the Protoss push forward. I think they're realizing, all right, we got to go for it, but there's all these turrets here. That's problematic. Goblin and HARSTEM are just going to have to try and defend. They do defend against the BCs, but Goblin loses yet another base. The BCs teleported down towards the front now, and we're looking at a bit of a big fight. Psystorm going down, but kind of missing. The EMPs have really softened up the Protoss army. Here's coming in more Vikings. I mean, they're going to volley down whatever they hit. Massive EMPs going down. I think we need to see a lot of batteries thrown up at the front by the Protoss players to get these units back up in shields. I mean, yeah, that is a very softened up Protoss army. The Terrans are mining from the top right, from the bottom left. That means they're going to have more resources if this game goes very, very long. We've got Maru still with his mass Vikings, though. Like, I mean, the Protoss armies are so lethal. It's a double death ball. Goblin is just, I don't think his army is that good. He's got High Templar en masse, which is always a good thing. It's 11 High Templar against 21 Ghosts. Stalkers can be microed against these Ghosts, but they're more for prolonged engagements. Like, against all these Ghosts and Marauders, it will not be good. I'd honestly love to see, like, 1 or 2 Disruptors, I think, from Goblin at this point. EMP's going down. There were some batteries built to help regen these shields. The Terrans still have lots of resources. We're seeing a bit of zealot harassment. I mean, Goblin is like seeing all these command centers. There's scans all over the place. If you look at the mini-map, there's just scans by the Terrans. I mean, this is what Terrans love to do if you give them a ton of room, whereas the Protoss are kind of just stuck right now. It's like, oh, what are you going to build? A few photon cannons, 6 photon cannons against 12 BCs? Yeah, I don't know about that one. And it seems that MARU and BYUN are almost even being BM with all their scans. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing mules drop to take the money of HARSTEM and GOBLIN soon. But these Protoss players are going to need a big fight. Look at this, 8 command centers on the way for MARU. They're trolling at this point. I mean, they're trolling. They've got a good grip on this game. But I have seen so many StarCraft 2 games that have been won just be lost in a second by one bad engagement. The Protoss players are a little out of position now as all of this Terran is moving towards the North BYUN, maybe going to break down these rocks to just charge on in here. The Protoss players are really split up. Goblin is moving down with the Stalkers with the Tempest, but that means all of a sudden the Protoss are caught off guard. They're like, wait a second, the bio wasn't supposed to be here too. I think we're going to see a recall to get the rest of this army over here. Goblin is attacking a planetary in the bottom left, but they got to defend this big attack coming on in. Where are all those High Templar? They're starting to trickle in now, and that's going to be scary for the Terrans. There's one big Psystorm. There's going to have to be more even on the BCs, but the BCs are taking out a lot of the High Templar. There's a couple Psystorms. I mean, they're really grouped up. The Vikings have been purposely held back for this long, though. And now we see a mass teleport on top of that army of Goblin. He immediately recalls to counter the teleport with his own teleport. And the Protoss tried to play a bit of a positional game, but look at this. Goblin is broke. He didn't take his gas at this base till much later. He's lost, I mean, all but 2 of his bases. I think it's going to be on HARSTEM and some god-tier Psystorms in order to win this game. Goblin's going to need to do the same, but he really doesn't have that much money to his name. He's going to need to get up those gas geysers going. Like, look at this. He's mining gas off one base against Terrans that have everything. Look at this. The map, the mini-map's almost solid Terran. In come the Protoss, though. They're going to try and force a quick engagement that the Terrans won't be able to get properly set up for. The Tempest are getting good shots up. The Phoenix fly on in and get deleted. They were not even a factor. The Psystorm, though, zoning out the Terrans. This is why I would have loved to see a couple Disruptors to zone out this army on the ground. Where are all the battle cruisers? They're just hanging back for now, possibly waiting for Yamato Cannon and Teleport to be off cooldown before taking a fight. The Mothership flying over some of those turrets may go down. It stays alive just barely. HARSTEM is not really paying attention there. This game is getting a bit scrappy, though, as the Protoss push on in. I mean, this is the power of the Protoss Death Ball. It will melt a Terran army if not microed correctly. Well, if the Terran armies aren't microed correctly. The Protoss are finally getting some licks in on their opponent. Goblin still has a pitiful supply, though. I mean, 29 probes, 100 supply. Definitely a bit of the weak link in this game. I don't think we can ignore that a little bit. And there's the mass teleport, though. MARU and BYUN have had enough. HARSTEM's army is just retreating. There's massive Psystorms on the Vikings and on some of the bio, but the Terrans are going for the win. HARSTEM's army is just retreating, and with Goblin not really having too much to support, it just vanishes. MARU and BYUN have just crushed them, and I think we could kind of see this one coming from just the way the game opened up. The Protoss players, they went for a bit of an odd strategy with the Tempest opening, and then in the end it was just the Terrans, they just saw the opportunity to macro and have a ridiculous economy, and they did so. HARSTEM, he had to tap out, even though he had a big bank. It's just, there's no stopping this much of an army. I think, yeah, Goblin needed to pick like a tech and commit more to it. I don't know what it could have been. Yeah, maybe a couple Disruptors in there would have been nice, but I think the Protoss players just needed a better economy. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watched all the way to this point of this video and you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe as we try and hit that 10,000 subscriber mark, pardon me. We're about 200 away as of recording this. Join the Discord, which is linked down below. Leave a like on this video. Leave a comment, as that does help with the YouTube algorithm. And if you, yeah, just let me know if you want to see more of these 2v2 games. I love casting them because it's like, instead of seeing 2 of your favorite players in a match, you can see 4 of them. And I really enjoy 2v2 because there's a lot of variety with it. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.